When countries assess their annual carbon dioxide emissions, they count up their cars and power stations, but bushfires are not included, presumably because they are deemed to be events beyond human control. In Australia, Victoria alone sees several 100,000 hectares burn each year. In both 2004 and the present summer, the figure has been over 1 million hectares. At the beginning of each fiscal year, funds are allocated to each state account in accordance with the university's financial plan. Funds are allocated to each account by the object of expenditure. Account managers are responsible for ensuring that adequate funds are available in the appropriate object before initiating transactions to use the funds. While blue is one of the most popular colors, it is one of the least appetizing. Blue food is rare in nature. Food researchers say that when humans searched for food, they learned to avoid toxic or spoiled objects, which were often blue, black or purple. When food dyed blue is served to study objects, they lose appetite. Although it hails from a remote region of the western Himalayas, this plant now looks entirely at home on the banks of English rivers. Brought to the UK in 1839, it quickly escaped from Victorian gardens and colonized river banks and damp woodlands. Now it is spreading across Europe, New Zealand, Canada, and the US. The core of the problem was the immense disparity between the country's productive capacity and the ability of people to consume. Great innovations in productive techniques during and after the war raised the output of industry beyond the purchasing capacity of US farmers and wage earners. Pluto lost its official status as a planet yesterday when the International Astronomical Union downsized the solar system from 9 to 8 planets. Although there had been passionate debate at the YAO General Assembly meeting in Prague about the definition of a planet and whether Pluto met the specifications, the audience greeted the decision to exclude it with applause. Ever since I remembered, father woke up at 5 every morning, made us all breakfast and read newspaper. After that, he would go to work. He worked as a writer. It was a long time before I realized he did this for a living. New research shows that during the global financial crisis, workers who stayed in jobs did not reduce their working hours, despite the claims that cuts in hours have led to job losses. A study found that the life of people who stayed with the same employer remained relatively unchanged. Life expectancy has increased dramatically in the last century. Most people these days will live for over 70 years. This is more than double the lifespan of the average human in the 17th century. We can attribute our longevity to advances in medicine and lifestyle. While everyone agrees that living longer is wonderful, overpopulation is becoming a serious environmental concern. You may have heard of the new fad known as ecotourism. This means tourism which is environmentally friendly and conscious about conserving the environment. The key is to minimize the physical, social, and behavioral impacts of overseas travel. Tour groups will often work with local and indigenous communities to design respectful and memorable programs for visitors. Charles Darwin published his paper on the origin of species in 1859. It is one of the most well-known pieces of scientific literature in human history. In the paper, Darwin proposes the theory of natural selection. He states that for any generation of any species, there will always be a struggle for survival. Individuals who are better suited to the environment are fitter and therefore have a much higher chance of surviving and reproducing. In an attempt to lure new students, leading business schools, including Harvard, Stanford, the University of Chicago and Wharton, have moved away from the unofficial missions and prerequisite of 4 years work experience and instead have set their sights on recent college graduates and so-called early career professionals with only a couple years of work under their belt. Food is one of the most important things you'll ever buy. And yet most people never bother to think about their food and where it comes from. People spend a lot more time worrying about what kind of blue jeans to wear, what kind of video games to play, and what kind of computers to buy. Global Management is a program specially designed to equip students with the knowledge and skills required to become an effective leader in diverse business contexts and varied intercultural settings. The program acknowledges that contemporary markets are increasingly complex in terms of culture and demand. If you have a chronic disease such as heart disease, diabetes, asthma, or back or joint pain, exercise can have important health benefits. However, it is important to talk to your doctor before starting an exercise routine. He or she might have advice on what exercises are safe and any precautions you might need to take while exercising. The problem begins with the alphabet itself. Building a spelling system for English using letters that come from Latin despite the two languages not sharing exactly the same set of sounds is like building a playroom using an IKEA office set. Such cross protection is usually seen between two animals. But Gore studies the same sort of mutualism in microbes. He and his team demonstrated the first experimental example of that cross-protective relationship in drug-resistant microbes using two strains of antibiotic-resistant E. coli bacteria, one resistant to ampicillin, the other to chloramphenicol. Modern buildings have to achieve certain performance requirements, at least to satisfy those of building codes, to provide a safe, healthy, and comfortable environment. However, these conditioned environments demand resources in energy and materials, which are both limited in supply, to build and operate. Global warming is defined as an increase in the average temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. This trend began in the middle of the 20th century and is one of the major environmental concerns of scientists and governmental officials worldwide. The changes in temperature result mostly from the effect of increased concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. If you truly want to leverage social networking websites to build your multi-level marketing or other online business, you need to listen first and develop trust second. That's when you can begin to use your community marketing abilities that used to work so well before everyone experienced being so transparent. The majestic Bangalore Palace is iconic for many reasons. The palace rooms now occupy arts and artifacts from the bygone era and are a popular destination for music events. If you are visiting the palace, do opt for the audio guide for an immersive experience. People are waking up to the problem of environmental degradation. Efforts are being made all over the world to reduce carbon footprint and promote sustainable development. Environmental conservation is no longer only about mandating factories to adopt greener practices or ensuring that vehicles on the road are checked regularly for their pollution levels. It is wider than that and encompasses all industries. In addition to the street food industry, many high-end restaurants and cafes are also bringing in plant-based meat options. These food products now make up the main menu instead of being treated as a sloppy second option. This transition has come about due to the high quality and taste of these items. As far as nitrogen dioxide is concerned, vehicle emissions are the biggest source. Besides, power plants and factories also generate these pollutants. Volcanic activities, lightning, and the decaying process of organic matter may also generate a large amount of nitrogen dioxide. The thing is that nitrogen dioxide may generate smog that produces harmful ammonia in the sunlight. The role of ionizers is to purify the air with the help of electricity. During this process, negative ions have created that discharge these ions into the air. In this case, they are attached to particles with a positive charge. Some of these harmful particles include smoke, bacteria, and pollen. The reaction between these ions helps purify the air inside your room office. On a planet with a growing population and shrinking natural resources, business as usual is no longer sustainable. But sustainability is very often good for the bottom line, as it's in the best interest of businesses to responsibly manage our natural resources so we can continue to use them for years to come.